On a trip going to Australia, she met Father Dean Martelli, who told her about the conditions that the Aboriginals had to live in. She bought notebooks and supplies and went northwest to get information on the Aboriginal life. She wrote articles about the living conditions for Aboriginals around Port Hedland. She wrote these for local newspapers. This started her interest in the lives and welfare of the Aboriginals. She was based at Beagle Bay Mission, near Broome. She began to research the Aboriginal culture. After she separated with her husband, she spent most of her life in Western and Southern Australia, where she worked for remote Aboriginal tribes who were dying because of Western technology and diseases. Her involvement with the Aboriginals was not as a missionary, doctor or teacher, which is how most people interact with the Aboriginals, but instead as a journalist. She did not try to change the Aboriginals' way of life or religion. She just wanted to see how they lived and wanted to write it down. For a short time, she went back to England to live. In 1899, a letter was sent to The Times, a British newspaper, about the cruelty to the Aboriginals. She then made an offer to do full investigations and report back the results. This was accepted and she went back to Australia. She devoted 40 years of her life studying the Aboriginal life, culture, history and customs. She lived in a small tent and moved between settlements. She wrote a lot during this period. She also worked a lot about Aboriginal welfare camps and tried to feed and take care of the Aboriginals. She thought that the Aboriginals were a dying race of people, and she tried to record as much about their culture and lifestyle as possible. Among the Aboriginal tribes, she was known as Cabrile, which is Aboriginal for grandmother, but it could also mean crazy person. Daisy Bates affected the lives of the Aboriginals by publishing the notes that she got from the Aboriginals that lived in Western and South Australia to newspapers all around Australia. This would have created publicity about the conditions that the Aboriginals had to live in, and this would cause other people to try and help them. She bought food for the Aboriginals from her money, taking from her lifestyle, but helping improve theirs. In 1904, the Registrar-General's Department of Western Australia appointed her to research about the Aboriginals' customs and language. After 1912, her application to become the Northern Territory's protector of Aboriginals was rejected because of her gender. The same year, she became the first woman to become the honorary protector of Aboriginals at UCLA. In 1933, the Commonwealth Government invited her to Canberra to advise Aboriginal affairs. In 1934, she became a Commander of Order of the British Empire. In 1941, Daisy Bates went back and lived her tent life at Winbury Siding, east of Adelaide. She stayed there, on and off, until, due to her health, she had to go back to Adelaide in 1945. She then moved to Adelaide, and she produced articles for leading newspapers in Australia called My Natives and I. Daisy was buried at Adelaide's North Road Cemetery after she died on the 18th of April 1951. Daisy Bates helped make understanding between the Aboriginals and the white settlers. She was thought to be the first Englishwoman to be concerned about the Aboriginal health and conditions. She helped with healthcare for some Aboriginals in her life and tried to bring healthcare to them. She published a lot of articles in newspapers around Western Australia and the Northern Territory, telling people about the conditions that the Aboriginals had to live in. She also wrote books about the Aboriginal dialects, words and sentences, which helped try to preserve the Aboriginal culture. Daisy Mary Bates was concerned about the Aboriginals' living conditions in Australia. She started to write articles about them and their culture. Bates started to bring attention to the Aboriginals and managed to gain a reputation to be offered the position to look after Aboriginal affairs for the Commonwealth Government. She helped bring attention to the living conditions that the Aboriginals had to live in. And she also helped bring some understanding between Aboriginals and the white settlers. Daisy Bates was an influential woman who helped the Aboriginals in a changing world to give a foothold in their homeland, Australia.